Hey guys, we are back with the My Sugar-Free Journey podcast, and we are here today with Renee Jones. So Renee Jones has a master's degree in marriage and family counseling. She has a clinical residency in pastoral care, and she is my neighbor. I didn't realize this, but she actually lives just on the other side of town from me. We're both here in beautiful Arlington, Texas, home of the Texas Rangers and the Dallas Cowboys, which we're all excited about the Dallas Cowboys this year because it looks like they're going to be a good team. So, Renee, welcome to the show.
Hi, Aaron. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. So Renee's story is interesting. I didn't know who Renee was, and she reached out to me, and I mentioned to Carrie. I said, because I think you mentioned her in your email. I said, do you know who this is? And she said, oh yeah, she's one of the admins for my group, and I know her well. And I was like, how weird that I hadn't heard of you, and we live in the same town, and we run in the same circls.
Yeah.
That's so strange. That's so strange. But so Renee is here to talk about emotional eating, and maybe we'll just touch on some other things because I know that you have been doing pastoral care. I was a pastor for 25 years. I love helping people with that part of life, and in fact, I see what I do now is really close to the same thing. I was focused on one part of the person, their spirit, their emotional well-being, and now I'm focused on another part of the person, their physical body. And the times when those two things can come together and you can really touch the whole person and be able to influence someone's whole being and their life is, these really powerful times.
Yeah.
So Renee, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let's get into your background a little bit. I touched on it a little bit. Tell us a little bit about how you got to this point.
Well, I started my first diet when I was 10.
Oof.
Because I was overweight, and my mother thought, if we deal with this now,
right,
we'll both learn and we'll both get healthier. Well, unfortunately, she had been on a diet before, so she wasn't very good at it.
Yeah.
And we did that yo-yo thing because, it's just what people did. We had this mindset that you lose your weight, then you go back to eating the way you always did.
Yeah.
So that's where the journey began. And along the way, I went to college, did all of the college things, got the degrees, did some time working in another country, and returned here for seminary and all the rest of it. So I started my 50th year, just before my 50th birthday. I thought, life changes for women after that. If I'm ever going to lose it, it has to be now.
Right.
So I started working on that, very consciously working on the emotional eating, and because that was the thing for me.
Right.
If I was tired, if I was frustrated, I would eat to soothe myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I did actually lose my weight the week before my 50th birthday. My trim-iversary is coming up.
That's cool.
And then I thought, you know what? When you know what to do, you need to share that. So I just sort of shifted my counseling to weight loss.
For me, fatigue is the number one driver of eating. I seem to lose, and when I say fatigue, I work very early in the morning, and it's not uncommon for me to get 4, 5, 6 hours of sleep, in a night. Mm-hmm. I've made some changes in the last week or two to try to address that because I didn't realize how bad it was getting. But fatigue is I've noticed that I have a much harder time, like there'll be cake in the break room or something, and I have a much harder time walking past that when I'm tired as opposed to when I'm well rested.
Yes.
And I'm sure that you've seen the same. So tell us a little bit about what is emotional eating? What are some of the signs of that?
If you eat when you're not hungry,
yeah,
that's probably emotional eating. Now, this is the one that doesn't rise to the level of addiction.
Okay.
But there are certain foods that we may go to all of the time. But if you're just eating because you're upset or angry or tired
mm-hmm.
or frustrated or bored, that's emotional eating. You're eating to soothe yourself emotionally, to make yourself feel better.
Yeah. And I've noticed that I tend to graze more when I'm tired, and that's, just like I've always got something,
Yeah.
handful of nuts or maybe a couple pieces of cheese. And a lot of times it's keto, but a lot of times it's just food that's going into me.
Well, and too much is still too much, whether it's keto
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So how do you help people with that?
I normally take them through a kind of prescribed course.
Okay.
But I focus on three main things. Your body, because you have to find what works for your body. Mm-hmm. And keto is great. I love it personally. Mm-hmm. But if it becomes too much to stick to, just like anything else, or if you can't find your balance, then it's not going to work for you.
Right.
So what works for your body is what you need to do. Then I work on baggage, because your baggage will affect you emotionally. Some of us just need our hearts to be healed.
Yeah, definitely.
And once we heal our hearts, then we don't eat so much just for the heck of it. Mm-hmm. And then I work on your best, because when you're in your best self, Aaron, do you eat as much?
No, absolutely not.
Exactly. So if we can find those things, create habits and rituals to support us in that, then we are much more likely to choose whatever nutrition plan we will stick to. Keto's wonderful, mm-hmm. but choose the one that works and stick with it.
Right.
Because when you're not eating for emotional reasons, you are saving a whole lot of calories.
Definitely. I remember hearing a story one time of a woman. She was a counselor, and she had that client who was very large, 400 pounds or more. And she would put her, try different things, put her on a plan, and try a bunch of different things. But, the common denominator when you're trying to get somebody to eat healthy, the common denominator is don't eat sugar. I mean, that's the one thing that pretty much everyone can agree on. Mm. And as she kept coming back, she wasn't losing weight. No matter what changes she made, whenever how they tweaked different things. And she was a very nice woman. She was apologetic. She's like, I cheated. I would eat this and I would eat that. And finally, at one point, she said, look, I don't know that I can help you because you're not compliant and you are, willfully not compliant. And I don't know there's anything that I can do for you. And she started crying in the little room that she was in, and the counselor thought that she was upset because the counselor was trying to say that she was hopeless, and so the counselor kept saying, "No, you're not hopeless. I mean, I don't know what it is," and she looked up and she was angry, like the lady was angry at the counselor. And she was like, okay, well, this is new because you've never showed this anger before. So what is going on here? And as they started unpacking the story, they found out that this poor girl, when she was growing up, her mom was a single mother. She would entertain men, and every time that she would entertain men, she would buy her a couple candy bars and a video from the movie store, put her in the back bedroom, and she would sit there and eat candy bars and watch a movie. And in her head, that was how her mother showed her that she loved her, that she was taking care of her, that she was giving her, entertaining her and everything. And so every time this counselor was taking away different types of sugar, she was taking away this woman's love. Yeah. She equated love with sugar so hard that it was impossible for her to ever get that sugar out of her diet, because it was removing her, the emotional core of who she was. And luckily they figured that out and they were able to help her. But man, if she hadn't had that breakthrough, she was never going to get the help that she needed. Yeah. What would you say to someone like that?
The counselor is absolutely right. I mean, I work at finding the driver.
Right.
Everyone has one. And once you find it, then you can kind of unwind it. You can kind of separate the sugar from love. Yes, this is how your mother showed you love, but it's not the only option.
Right.
What were some other ways mom showed you love? So if you can find those hidden nuggets, then it's much easier to unwind it so you can face your stuff rather than stuff in your face.
That's good. I like that. You should put that on a t-shirt. That's good stuff. All right. So walk us through your practice, or probably the best way to do this is if you've got a few case studies. Don't share the names or anything, but a few case studies of people that have had these big problems and what you've done to really get them the breakthroughs that they needed.
Well, one of them, I met with her and she said, I hate vegetables.
Okay.
I just don't want to eat any.
Right.
So I was like, okay, where does that come from? And when we worked it down, it wasn't that she hated all vegetables. There were just some that she preferred raw, maybe lightly steamed, but overcooked, none. No, we're not doing that. So she was able to figure out, okay, what vegetables do I like? How do I get my nutrition needs met? And it came from, the fact that her mother always overcooked everything.
Yeah.
So she was like, I don't have to have that. I'm just putting it out of my life. So she was much more capable of sticking with her diet there. But again, it's that nugget.
Right.
Finding what's going on and how do we unwind it.
Okay. That's interesting.
And for me personally, I had a peanut butter thing.
Oh,
When my mother died, I crawled into my peanut butter jar. Like every time I went by, it was natural peanut butter, had no sugar in it.
Right.
I would go and get another spoon and get another spoon and get another spoon. So when my grandmother passed away, and my grandmother and I were tight, boy, we were tight. I thought, okay, I can gain 20 pounds on top of what I have gained.
Right.
Or I can try to figure this out. And that was part of the 2012 figuring out before my 50th birthday. But I worked out that she loved it. And it became a tangible symbol of her love and encouragement.
Yeah.
So once I realized, okay, she's not in that jar.
Right.
I need to take to other ways that she loved and encouraged me and hang my soothing on that rather than just peanut butter.
It's interesting you say that because for me it's ice cream, and it's because my grandfather, who I loved, that was what they did is they sat and they had a bowl of ice cream after at the end of the day or whatever. And so when I got to sit up at the table and have a bowl of ice cream with my grandpa, I have a very strong memories of me sitting there eating ice cream with him. So it's still to this day, if I'm gonna cheat, or if I'm gonna get a snack, or if I'm gonna get a dessert, it's gonna be ice cream. It might be keto ice cream. Rebel Creamery has pretty good ice cream out there right now. But that's what I'm gonna eat.
Do you know that is the number one answer I get from men is ice cream at the end of the day?
That's interesting.
And one of the clients was saying, yes, but I have to have my ice cream. I said, so plan it in.
Yeah.
Figure out how to do it. And Carrie does have some great recipes for
she does.
ice cream. So one of the things that you can do is separate it from other things that you're doing. Mm-hmm. And with any food that you just feel like you have to have, okay, plan around it. Save the calories or macros or whatever you count for that.
Right.
And then sit down at the table with a placemat or tablecloth, use a spoon, and don't do anything but focus on the ice cream. Because you need to give that food the same honor that you're giving your cravings.
Okay.
And if you're watching TV while you're doing it, then you're not focused on your ice cream. You're watching TV and just mindlessly eating the ice cream.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. That's why I eat the ice cream, is so I can mindlessly eat it while I watch TV.
Okay, so I always say, if you are bored while watching TV, you need to find another activity.
Okay.
Because if you're bored, why are you doing that activity?
Right.
I know it's easy. It's so easy. That's relaxation time. But do one thing. Don't multitask.
Okay. You might be taking away my TV time. That's pretty good. I get to watch one show a day, and I don't have time for anything else. It's interesting. Okay. So yeah. So again, just do you just another story. What I'm trying to do here is I want my listeners to have some insight into, because it's hard to do it on your own. It's hard to look at yourself. And I think the more stories we have of people who have looked at things in a different way and have done their best to overcome different ways, I think stories are what's incredibly powerful. Yeah. So stories of success, maybe even stories of failure. If you can maybe give us one or two more of those, I think that's what's going to help the most people.
So one of my ladies said she did great when she was at work, unless she had an unplanned run-in with the snack machine. So we talked about how to avoid that. And she was doing really well. She wasn't doing the snack machine at work, but unfortunately when she got home, she had a real hard time maintaining. And I said, okay, so what's going on at home? She was single. She lived by herself. There was nobody around. Oh, but she kept stuff for the grandchildren.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and you can't leave that alone, can you? She said, no. I said, is that really for the grandchildren, or is that just a good excuse? So sometimes we have to look at the patterns and figure out what's working for us and what's not working for us. And, it's real easy not to bring food into your house that you can't or don't want to consume. If you do have to have stuff around, like I have a husband, he has his stuff, his foods, and I have his foods on a different shelf.
Okay.
Up above my eye level, and I'm not a very tall woman, so he can put it up on the top shelf. I can't even reach it without a step stool, right?
Right.
So if you put it on a different shelf or in an opaque container where you can't see it, because out of sight, out of mind, that helps too.
No, that's interesting, because when one of my sons lived here for a little while, actually another son lives here, and they would bring home cereal, and the cereal I don't care anything about cereal. I used to love Lucky Charms, but now I could be around Lucky Charms, doesn't do anything. But for some reason, they brought home a box of grape nuts one time, and I could not go past the grape nuts without finally getting a bowl, and it didn't even taste good. It's probably the worst tasting cereal on the planet, but I had to have a bowl of it.
How weird!
It's because I saw it. You got a kitty cat.
I got a cat. He just walked by.
You and Carrie both enjoy your cats.
I also have a dog. She's over there lying down.
I got two dogs at my feet. They're both staring at me like I'm about to feed them.
Oh,
Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. My wife has given me subtle signals that she was hot. We need to turn the air on. All right, you got another story for us?
Let's see. Okay, so one lady had been struggling with the basic low-fat diet, and we dealt with that, but she still wasn't losing weight. And I said, well, there is that carnivore thing you can try. And she said, what does that mean? I said, well, that's where you don't eat any vegetables at all. She said, why didn't you tell me about this before?
There, right, exactly.
I was like, well, because you eat vegetables. She said, I don't really like them. I just eat them because I have to. I said,
right.
Well, there is a philosophy. And she started losing weight, and it just came off for her. So much about finding the right plan for you, because your body, your chemistry is different to my chemistry, and what works for you may not work for me, and vice versa. So finding the right plan, preparing for it, having your family at least balanced enough to be helpful, and then deal with your baggage.
Carnivore is such an interesting thing because it gets so much grief. But boy, there's so many people that I've seen just try carnivore for 2 or 3 months. See what happens. It's not going to kill you. And you might see huge success. Mm-hmm. Or, you might go, man, I could really use a salad. Who knows? But it is another option. Now, you mentioned family. What are some strategies we can use, especially, I used to say in my little Facebook group, I said, if you're trying to make this huge change to your diet and your family isn't on board, it's almost not even worth starting because it the success rate is so low. You've got to get your family on board. What are some of the strategies that you have for people that they've got a husband that's that he's going to eat what he's going to eat, the kids are going to eat what they're going to eat, and you're kind of on an island alone with your diet changes?
Make sure any of their food is not at your eye level, wherever you put it, because again, out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
You also need to stock good treats for yourself.
Okay.
Make them pretty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Buy good quality and pretty stuff, because you do eat with your eyes. And I heard a podcast earlier where they were talking about kid food and making the keto or the sugar-free food look just as pretty as the other things. Make it into a star shape,
right,
if that's what you like. So taking the time not only to prepare good things for yourself or buy good things for yourself, but make it attractive. Because if it looks like dog food, you're not going to eat it.
Right.
If it just looks like something in a bowl, you may or may not eat it because it doesn't feed that part of you. I started out with a rule for myself because I was heavily into sugar. Thought, every meal sweet would be fantastic.
Right.
So my first rule was I only have sugar on Sundays.
Oh, that's interesting.
And on Wednesday, I was standing in my pantry, staring down the chocolate chip saying, I only have sugar on Sundays.
Right.
But after about, the following Wednesday, I was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So making different rules for yourself. One of them might be the kitchen is closed after dinner or after 7 p.m. or whatever your time is. Just making sure that that's true. I also have a rule for myself. I don't eat free food at the office. Because the free food is usually brought in by marketers. And it's going to be a donut or it's going to be some bready thing or sweet thing. They very seldom bring in nuts.
Right.
Or cheese.
Right.
So I don't take free food when I'm out and about.
That's so cheap. Anything that's free, anything that somebody's wanting to give away, that's incredibly enticing to me.
Yes. And it doesn't work for you, does it?
Yeah, it doesn't. No.
And that's the thing that's why I made that rule, because I finally realized, okay, this is not helping me.
Right.
And if I take that, then I'm not achieving my goal. And what's more important to me, the free food or the goal?
Right. That's good.
Or, sometimes like if you're at a buffet wedding, something like that, I'm not opposed to taking the things apart and eating the parts I like.
Okay. Yeah.
And leaving the shell. Like they're, egg rolls and dumplings and things like that. The middle parts are usually good.
Yeah.
But just being okay with doing what you need to do for you.
Okay. So what about if you've got you've got somebody who's struggling, they know that they've got a plan, but they're just not sticking to it. How are you unpacking their lives to the point to figure out what that is? Do you have a process that you go to? Is it just you just talking to them and seeing what comes up, or what is it that you're doing?
Generally, yes, we are just talking. I mean, I have a few exercises that I give them, a couple of personality profiles that are helpful for me to understand them and to know how to address them. Because if I've got somebody who is a rebel, I'm not going to say, you have to do this, 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 and this.
Right.
Right? I'm going to say, okay, because I put out this new program at the beginning of the summer, and I got 3 people who were rebels on that.
Okay.
So what I do with them is, okay, this is not who you want to be. How does this decision work with who you want to be? So there's some of that, clinical knowledge that comes into play. I also, overcoming emotional eating isn't really hard, but we do have to get the hang of it because we've been doing it the other way for so long. Right. And that's an acronym. And the H is, am I hungry? And if you are, you probably need to eat. But if you're not, then go to the A. What is the attraction to food in that moment?
Okay.
The N is need. What is it that you actually need? Because sometimes you may need to go play with your dogs. You may need to stroke the cat. You may need to go for a little walk. You may need to just get up and do something else for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then G is go. Go get that, because that will soothe you more than anything you could put in your mouth.
That's an interesting thing.
Yeah, yeah. And I even put it on a card for
Look,
people
there it
to
is.
take away with them. When they come to a talk or something, then I usually give them that card. It could be, just troubleshooting.
Right.
How are you feeling today? What happened in this situation?
Right.
What would you prefer to happen? How do we get from that point to this point? So it is a lot of, my husband was like, we need to systematize this. I said, I can't systematize what's in my head.
Right. Yeah, I get that. So yeah, the emotional aspect of it is so difficult because it's so tied into, like, a lot of times, especially when I'm dealing with somebody that's new to the program, they don't really know, and I don't either, what's driving a craving. Are you just still addicted to sugar? I mean, is it a biochemical thing? And that can go through time, and eventually with enough time that will lessen. That could be it. Is it an emotional thing where sugar means something, love or compassion or acceptance, and that's what you're going to have to deal with? Well, maybe. Is it just you're tired, and when you're tired, you seek comfort foods? Is that what's going on? And there's so many variables that you've got to deal with. It's hard to just get them from one step to the next. That's one thing that about, like, Alcoholics Anonymous. One of the things that I think they're so powerful is they've got meetings, which for me is podcasts. I listen to podcasts. The podcasts are essentially my meetings. But you've also got a sponsor. You've got somebody who's a little farther down the line that's helping you and walking you through the process, and hopefully they can help you see the obstacles, and hopefully they can help you kind of overcome some things and help you avoid some things that maybe they stepped into, and keep you on the straight and narrow.
Well, I think if you've been doing it one way for a long time, having an accountability buddy,
right,
or having a coach, or a sponsor who can walk you through that,
right,
can be very helpful. But see, Aaron, the problem is that thing about soothing ourselves by putting something in our mouths,
right,
starts from birth.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have babies.
Yeah.
When they cried, what did you do?
You put some in their mouth.
Yeah, whether it's the bottle or the pacifier or the breast, you put something in their mouths. And unfortunately, what we did was we went from that pacifier to a donut.
Right.
And we just keep doing that. And it does work initially. Yeah. But you have to find, okay, so how else can I do this? What else can I do that will soothe me? And sometimes that's hard to find.
So I've got 2 new granddaughters, and their relationship with food is amazing to me, because I'm watching this. I've been able to watch them very closely from the day they were born. So the older one and the younger one. The older one, food is just food. I mean, she'll eat what put in front of her. She can push away from the table when she's full. She doesn't overeat. She's tall. She's slender. She's got what looks to be, at 4 years old. I mean, who knows what's going to happen later in life. She looks to have a very healthy relationship with food. The younger one does not. The younger one is a little shorter, a little stockier, and she will eat what you put in front of her, and then take your food and eat your food and continue to eat, and then want dessert. And she just, man, she can put it away. She loves sugar. Like I tell you, we went to a restaurant the other day, and at the end of the restaurant, they bring out these little things of ice cream, and one in front of each of the granddaughters, and the older granddaughter took a bite, 2, maybe 3 of her ice cream, didn't finish it, pushed it away. She wasn't interested. She was talking. She was doing other stuff. The other granddaughter, I was watching her, she ate all of hers, and then she looked at, because there was, half-eaten, a lot of ice cream on the table that people weren't eating. She reached over, she grabbed someone else, and she finished that one, and then she, poked her dad to make her dad give her his, and, dad pushed his over. I mean, she probably ate 4 of them and then was crying at the end of it because there was ice cream all around her, and she couldn't, she wanted it all. She wanted everything. And that, the two, just this dramatically different, relationship with food, they came out of the womb like that. It happened at birth with this weird thing that they both have. And this is probably something, I mean, I'll know more in 10 years, but this is probably the way that they're going to be for the rest of their life. The older ones, food is just going to be food, and the younger one is going to, yo-yo weight up and down for the rest of her life and have a sugar addiction. And, long before any kind of emotional thing happened, because they're both, loved and cared for. I mean, I can't imagine anything, traumatic has happened to either one of them. But it's there. And it was there from day one.
And that's when parenting comes in to
Absolutely
help the second one figure out how to do appropriately.
Right.
I mean, she's a little young.
She's very young. She's 2, and she's this addicted. Yeah.
Yes. So, but I mean, she's a little young to ask her specifically, okay, what do you want to do? That sort of thing.
Right.
But she needs to be parented at that. This is what is healthy for us. This is how we eat. Right. And not get away with that extra, 4 other people's ice cream.
She would have eaten it all. If we'd have let her, she'd have crawled across the table and eaten everything ice cream on that table. And this was after a full meal. She had a full meal.
But again, the whole chemistry is different. I mean, she may actually be lacking something that she needs nutrient-wise. I don't know.
Yeah.
But definitely, that's where I would suggest some good parenting to come in. I wish I'd had that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they just, nobody knew 50 years ago how to, I remember my grandparents feeding me Cool Whip and, butterscotch, pudding, and they only ate margarine because they were convinced that butter was bad for you. And we had Miracle Whip instead of mayonnaise because, I don't even know why that was, but
it's a little sweeter.
Yeah, it's just sugary mayonnaise.
Yeah.
And I think back at the choices that they made, the foods that were in their pantry, it was all processed. I mean, it was all TV dinners, and everything in their pantry was came in a box or a jar or whatever. Yeah. And they both had struggled with blood pressure their entire life. My grandfather had a heart attack when I was very young, and my grandmother passed away a couple of years ago, probably 20 years ago, but through blood pressure stuff. Yeah.
Well, culture does have its effect, and I remember my grandmother, God love her, she struggled with her weight all of her life, as did her entire family.
Right.
But she said to me once, she said, Renee, if you want to deal with your weight issues, then cut out the sugars and starches. That's all you need to do. I know you know about all this low fat stuff, but if you deal with the sugars and starches, you will have a better time.
Yep.
So she knew.
Right.
She couldn't do it for herself, but she knew.
But the other half of that equation is the part of the equation that's missing. Yeah, cut out sugar and starches, but what do you replace it with? Well, you've got to replace it with fat. Yeah. You've got to replace it with real food. And fat was so demonized, you had people cutting out sugar and starch, and then what were they eating? They were just eating, boneless, skinless chicken breasts and broccoli, and they were going crazy because you can't survive on that.
Well, you're not supposed to be able to. I would say that I did for a number of years because that was the thing to do. And I was still heavy.
Yeah.
I was still, because I did that low-fat thing, low-calorie things, starving. And it wasn't until I started adding the fat back in, because I took a metabolic test and it said, you need more fat.
Right.
Like, okay. And that's how I got to keto, was looking for that. But suddenly I was not tired, hungry, and cranky all the time.
Right.
Whereas
Exactly.
I was, so God bless my husband, he's now much happier with me.
That's funny. Mine too, probably. Never my wife. Okay, well, perfect. Well, you said that you've got a gift for my listeners. What do you got?
Well, I have this process that I do with clients, and it's called the compass.
The compass.
And it's an exercise that helps you figure out, okay, who you want to be, what you want to do, your goals, that sort of thing. Just picking one thing that would make your life better.
Okay.
And if you work through that exercise, that becomes your compass. And you need a compass when you're lost, right?
Right.
So to get back on track. So I have this video for them, and if they will go to packyourownbag.com/friends, they'll get a video there.
Okay. So your website, I think I forgot to say at the beginning, but packyourownbags.com. Bags with
bag. One bag. Pack your own bag.
Packyourownbag.com. So packyourownbag.com/friends to get her video, to get her free gift to you guys. You got to go check it out. Where else can they follow you? Have other social media, that kind of thing?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. So yes, they can follow me there.
Okay. Is it just Pack Your Own Bag?
Facebook, I squatted on all of the ones that have Pack Your Own Bag in it. So,
Okay.
But the one that I actually use is Renee Jones, Pack Your Own Bag.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Instagram is just Pack Your Own Bag.
Okay.
And I've got the TEDx talk out there if they want, just a taste of it.
Oh yeah, I forgot about your TEDx talk too. Yeah, we're gonna add that in the show notes. So check that talk out as well.
Okay.
All right, Renee, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Aaron.
All right, guys, we'll be right back with a little more information.